maybe I've got the kiss of death because all the people I've built good relationships, I like end up in the bottom with.
Episode aired last night. How are you doing?
Honestly, fab, really good. Like I think we filmed that episode so long ago, what like February. So I think I've had 10 months, not only process, but imagine the worst case version of that. And I thought the episode was kind of fine. Yeah, about a great time. Yeah.
And the episode before the finale, I always find as a viewer is a very frustrating one because it's like, damn, why couldn't it have just been like a final five or something like that? You know what I mean? How is it for you leaving right before the final?
I think that you know, honestly, upon reflection, I think it's so fine. Like it's honestly calm because I've done every challenge. I think at that point, really, it's coming down to who is currently the least in the running, perhaps, for the next Shag Superstar. I think unfortunately it was me. And, I think I got to show every runway. I got to show so much of myself as a human being throughout this entire season. And really, like, it just means I get all the fun of being in the finale with the other girls without the pressure of, like, trying to deliver. Yeah, so I know I've got so much to be proud about throughout the whole of season seven. And yeah, listen, I'm a bad bitch. Can't kill me.
Well, something you just said there about sort of it coming down to maybe who's least deserving. I'm not to put any of the other girls down, I'm not going to play comparisons, but a lot of the fans online actually don't think that necessarily was you. What has that response been like for you? Oh.
Okay, well, now I'll get into it, Eva. I think that, to be honest, when we filmed on the day, when we were getting ready for the runway, all that was clear was that Catrin was lip syncing, right?
Oh
And
gosh.
then the rest of us were like, oh, it really could kind of go anyway. It's about like, I think it's about the semantic of the moment. And there are really tiny things to nitpick about everyone's set. Choose how you feel. Like you could argue Slexa had a great recovery, but was forgetting the lines. Or Bones that had to take a pause to anchor herself. And if they were being spiteful, they could be like, oh, it broke the flow of the momentum. I think for me, I understood what they meant. Like, and there were so many things to celebrate about my set. Like, I think the writing was really clever. I think I'm so glad that I managed to do it all without the cue cards. And I think I was the only person to do that. I think also though, I completely understand what they mean about like the structure of it. Because I think approaching the roast, I knew all the queens are there. I was like, okay, I want sufficient. I don't want anyone to be without any material. I'm going to make sure I have at least two or three jokes for every single queen who's before me. So I think, unfortunately, all kind of had to be one-liners because you've got a time limit. And as well, I'm a mumbler. I'm a mumbler, and I run my mouth, and I talk really quickly. So I was like, okay, if I can make the jokes short and succinct, you're not going to lose any of what I'm saying. Um, yeah, and I guess it's just the way the cookie crumbles. I think sometimes as well, watching it back, to a blessing and a curse. To my credit, you can tell I'm a consummate host, and I host my own shows like all the time. And you catch me at brunch, just me and one other queen hosting and singing for 2 hours. And I think that I can understand in the sense that my set, I think perhaps the meter and the presentation of the delivery, whereas other people were a bit more like, here is my joke, here's the setup, and here's the punchline. And I think you can tell that I felt a bit more like, oh, I'm a host on a mic, and like, here's a little joke. Oh, you laughed at that, didn't you? Um, so I just think it's all like, it's just nitpicking, which is a really privileged position to be in the sense that, oh, I can argue both times I lip sync this and the musical, which is a matter of a roll of the dice, as opposed to you flopped today. Um, yeah, I mean, I was happy with my set, and listen, I think it's like a laugh track under it. Might have even won. But yeah, like ultimately, I can't complain. Like, it could have been so much worse. It really could have been so much worse.
The thing with the roast, you were kind of touching on there, it is so subjective. Like what I find funny is not necessarily what you're going to find funny. What you roast me for, I could get offended by, whereas I could say the same thing to you and you find it really funny. So
Yeah.
it does kind of boil down to like what you were saying, that. And also, I actually think you had the funniest read of the night with the night on Bella read. I actually thought that was the best one of the entire evening for like singular isolated like reads. I thought that was the best one. And even like, so many people on Twitter and whatnot, like Tia Coffee, I saw tweeted how funny it was and things like that. With all of that, now that that's happened, does it kind of make you going home on this episode feel a little bit better seeing how well it's been received?
Absolutely. And like, I know you're not supposed. Listen, they say don't read the comments. I read every single
Oh, I
one.
read every single one. Listen,
Every
I get
single
it.
thing,
Every single
every
comment, yeah.
comment glued. And I think that that's honestly kind of been a really nice blessing about this season because I came back and I looked at my statistical track record and I was like, okay, not thrilling. But I think especially it makes the fans rally behind you because they're like, oh, not that I was an underdog because I think I was doing a good job, but I think the fans, a lot of the fans have been like, oh, why are they spiting Tayris? It didn't feel like that in the moment, like, I really didn't. But yeah, like I think everything I did on the show I stood by, and I don't think if I could go back in time and I have to think about what I'd change, especially about the roast, I was like, nothing really. Like the set I came because I know, for instance, some people came in with like a lot of material pre-written to assign to people, and I had a mixture of the two because I've done like charity roasts and stuff before. So I was like, okay, here's some jokes I know work. Let's write some new ones when you actually meet the queens as the season progresses. But yeah, and also, I'll tell you as well. I had a couple clunkers. I had a couple jokes that even I wrote down. I was like, that shit. But they weren't included, so I was like, thank you. I was with Charity Grande last night, and I can't remember what my roast for her was. I remember it being crap, and
Oh,
then I was like, oh, they're going to include that one. They didn't. I was like, oh, piece of piss, thank you. Yeah, listen, like the best case scenario, because spoiler, I was already eliminated. I already knew that was the outcome. So the best case scenario is that people think that I was better than I was received by the judges, which is what's happening. So that's really lovely.
you were the only one to do it without cards. And I think there is something to be said for that risk and like taking that swing. And me and Bonnie had a similar conversation last week where it's like she took a big swing on the makeover and it didn't quite hit. But it's almost that question of should that be taken into account that you did push yourself that extra step further? I know you didn't have to, but you chose to. What's your opinion on that? Do you feel like that's something that should have been factored in more in the judge's decision or not?
Ultimately, it's RuPaul's Drag Race. RuPaul gets to say what she likes, like, and I know for me it was important to not be glued to the card because I was like, okay, I'm going to lose myself in the material, and I'm not going to be able to commit to cheating out and like talking to people. So, for instance, I know some of the queens had like the full joke written on the card. I had a card on the desk, each with a bullet point of what the punchline was. And I was like, okay, so I'm trying to think of another joke I had. Like, for instance, I had one for Catrin, it didn't make the air, and it was the joke just said like beast, and the joke, so for the joke was something like, oh, you and I are truly writing a tale as old as time, Beauty and the Beast, or like something like that. And I think I was just kind of like walking around in space, and I remember I've watched, listen, I'm a big fan of the show. I remember part of the reason they gave the roast to Michael over Ginger was because she didn't use the cards. And then I remember watching like the season 13 of the US one, they loved the fact that Rose didn't use the cards. And I was like, if I come from a theatrical background, I know I can download this information to my brain quite quickly. And especially as a host, you kind of have to have a gist of what you're going to say, but like you've got to live like in the moment. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to do it with the card. And I'm glad they at least praised me for it. I did hope it would keep me out the bottom, but it is what it is.
Well, look, moving aside from the actual elimination, because it is such a small part of your experience, a bigger part might be a certain someone that you met on the show, which, unless I'm wrong, might be our first Drag Race UK couple that formed on the. Oh wait, no, am I wrong? Wait, no, because Pixie and Tia were before.
Yeah.
Let me not dissect other people's relationships on this call because I don't want to get. I'm not about to be on these because some of these T pages do be clipping some of this stuff, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be on that. So that said, let's just whether or not you're the first, did you go into it expecting to find anything like that?
I mean, no, I think that I'm not surprised that happened though. Because I just think we really got along, and even it's so funny because watching our entrances, obviously she's in first and I'm in second. So already we're in drag. I was like, oh, she seems quite charming, and she's like, oh, you look really nice. And I said, oh, don't flirt with me. I was like, oh, little did I know what would happen next. But I think that especially as you've seen on the show, I'm a very heart on my sleeve kind of person, and I think that it doesn't take a lot to get not an emotional reaction for me, but to gauge how I feel, whether it's frustration, tears, joy, which I think has been really wonderful for me in building relationships with people because if I'm good at anything, it's communicating how I feel. And so yeah, I just think obviously you go on something like Drag Race, and it's such a pressure cooker that I think sometimes the other girls would make like comments to be like, "Oh, do you think it's distracting you from the crown or the badge?" And I was like, babe, I think I've got an advantage because you're all stressing alone, singular.
Very
Whereas I've
true.
got at least one person I can relax and lean on and be like, oh, what a day we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, like if I can get a crown, 25 grand, and a man too, like that's a triple win in my bag.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. That's such a good point about having, yeah, that extra person to lean on that the other girls don't have. I never actually thought about that. That's really interesting. And what we did see, unfortunately, was the lip sync.
Mm.
And just talk about that. Like, what was that like when, Rouge said it was going to be both of you? What was going through your head?
I mean, the thing is, we knew it might be on the cards because we're so like the closer and closer you get towards the end, especially when we're the two without badges. I'm like, oh, we might be up for shock and box soon because we're showing that we're not connecting with the judges in the way that they need to up until this point. Also, I think we also listen. I do really, I really like the boy, the woman. Sorry, I'd met them like a handful of weeks before, and I'd been doing drag 8.5 years at this point. So I was like, this is my priority. And also, worst case scenario, everyone's back for the finale anyways. I will literally see you like
Yeah,
in a couple
true.
of days' time. Like, you're right, gal. Yeah, and like I said, I said it in my little like mirror message part. But I was really glad, if anything, she was a person to send me home. Because I felt like, listen, as a TV viewer, fantastic storyline for the pair of us. But also, I was like, okay, if for whatever reason there was any part of her that wasn't focused on the competition because I was present, then go on, like, it's the finale. This it's still all to play for. Get me out of the way. Get me out of the way now so you can lock in and focus at the end, you know? And ultimately, like, I was really at peace and despite how much I sobbed, I was really at peace being eliminated because I was like, what else is there for me to show? I could do the finale and have a fantastic verse in the finale song, whatever. But like, I don't think we're going to win the season at that point. So I was like, okay, I get all the fun of doing the finale without the pressure of being like,
Yeah,
this is make or break, you know?
I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. And look, we are tight on time, but I do really want to ask you about Miss Sally TM because when I did an interview with her a couple of weeks ago, she spoke so highly of you for a good couple of minutes. And as you know, these are short calls, so a good quarter of it was her really praising you, your work ethic, your friendship to her, and she even said it went from a sisterhood to a brotherhood, which I've never heard a drag queen say, but actually makes a lot of sense now that I've heard that. Can you talk a little bit about, aside from just finding a partner on the show, it sounds like you found a really, really like a friend for life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Honestly, like, I think maybe I've got the kiss of death because all the people I've built good relationships with, I like end up at the bottom with. But I think yeah, Sally and the art Russell, the artist who plays Sally, just like mean the world to me. They really do. And I think when I went into Drag Race, part of the advice I was given was, oh, be careful about connecting with people too quickly because you'll do this thing, and I understand what they mean. You do this thing where people remind you of people from home, so therefore you put too much emotional pressure on your relationship with them, and like you can't expect them to treat you the way people at home would treat you because you've met this person a week or two ago. So when I first met Sally, I knew I was like, oh, this is like a kindred spirit. But I was like, oh, or are you just bright and girl coded? Let me give it a minute. But yeah, like on the show and like like the moments you saw on camera and the moments you didn't see on camera, I think we were clearly like so linked, and like even getting to have that mirror chat with her, and she had like such capacity to support me in that conversation. And I've seen so many clips of us. It'll be like a completely irrelevant scene, and then like I'm tapping her head, and I'm like kissing her
Yeah.
bald skull, or like whatever. Honestly, like I was obsessed with her. And what I think is like so like in the 10 months since we filmed, I just think we filmed such like a fantastic relationship. And she was someone as well that I was like, I don't think she recognizes, at least at the time, how much of a star she was. I think especially getting that accolade from Rue, where Rue's like, "Go, you've got it," has really meant the world to her. But like honestly, I couldn't have above Catrin, above even the friends I knew prior to the show, like Pasty, like Bones. I think I couldn't have done this experience without her in my life. So I think yeah, like my what my I feel like for me, my badges this season include my mirror chat, my experience with Danny Harmer, and obviously the getting to meet Sally Trademark.
Honestly, I wish we had time to talk about Danny Harmer all day because that was so iconic. But
Yeah.
it sounds like, honestly, and I hope you've learnt the same thing about yourself. I don't know how much you felt the same about Sally before, but what you were just saying about Sally also really applies to you. I mean, you have shown such an incredible package that I think so many people have resonated with. And, like you said in the episode, you've represented so many different groups of people so powerfully. And That is actually worth. I mean, not that I don't want 25 grand in my account because mama needs that, but that is
Yeah.
worth that, in many ways. But look, before I let you go, let's do some very, very quick fire questions because we literally have 1 minute. So let's just give you some one-word answers to these. All right.
Mhm.
Did you have any other Snatch Game character ideas that we didn't see presented on the show?
Yes. So it was my Precious was my third choice. I was
Oh,
gonna do Big Nasty, the rapper. But Rue was like, no clue who this is at all. And the other one I would have done if it was the regular Snatch Game, but it doesn't work in this format. I wanted to do Mr. Blobby, but like so every answer be like and then like
oh.
a something else. And obviously you have to write on the card as well to be like that's so fierce. But I think in the Snatch Game of Love format, I just don't think it would have volleyed in the same way. But yeah, so and listen, I had another option that I didn't end up doing because I wanted to share, but I had a picture. It was in whiteface, like kind of like the Corey King, Michael Jackson thing. But then Bonnie was like, "I'm doing share," and I was like, "I already just know that's going
I'll
to
be
be
doing
something."
that. Yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's your dream lip sync song?
Currently, Nissan Altima by Dochi. Bit black for Drag Race UK, but yeah,
Who was the kindest queen this season?
Sally Trademark,
Who was the shadiest?
Catrin Feelings.
Everyone's saying Catrin is sending me.
Yeah, God, they've done wonders in this edit.
Who would be your dream guest judge?
Free runway.
If you didn't compete on Drag Race, what show would we see you on?
If I had the plan, The Apprentice.
Camp! Oh my God, I did not expect that
Oh,
to come out of your mouth. Damn, that was a good
I
one.
want
Woo!
to.
Love that. And look, lastly, before we let you go, what is next for you now that you've got this incredible feat under your belt? What are you planning to do next?
I'm truly taking the world by storm. Like I'm releasing music next year. Next year I'm traveling all around the globe. I'm doing Oslo, I'm doing Lithuania. I've got some other things in the calendar that I can't tell you right now. I'm doing buttons. I'm about to star in Snow White in the West End at the Emerald Theatre from the 16th of December to 4th of January. Get your tickets. Listen, if there's a stage, you'll find me on it. Trust.
Good. Well, Terrace, it's been so lovely watching you and speaking to you. It's genuinely
Definitely.
been a pleasure, and I hope you have the best rest of your experience with Drag Race and everything else. So.
Thank you so much for having me, honestly.